We have decided to tackle the issue in better understanding the challenges that immigrant students face when they come to America. In this video, we will be sharing our findings through our research, the content discovered in our interviews, the impact we hope to create with our brochure, and our future goals for the topic. Let's get started.
Now we're going to discuss our research findings. My research focused on the different successes of immigrant students in contrast to American students. Immigrant students feel that their successes are based upon their resourcefulness and relationships that they build, while American students' success is measured by classroom successes. These include test scores, graduation rates, and reading levels. This just goes to show the basic social struggles that immigrants have to overcome before they can really learn.
My research was about how immigrant students and their parents looked at education as a way to move forward in the world. This article focused on two different cases of immigrant students. One followed a hardworking student who worked extra hard with his teachers to get ahead in school and move on to college. The other followed a student who was not able to move forward in education due to falling behind in high school.
I looked at an article written by Alejandro Portes and Lingson Hao that looks deeper into the knowledge of academic achievements in the immigration population, focusing specifically on long-term effects and ethnic makeups of the schools. The research that I found showed that overall immigrants that are taking up U.S. residence achieve more academically. That is until you break it into individual ethnic groups. Then you see the different results. Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese ethnic groups actually show the opposite results academically to those of Mexican immigrants. Mexican immigrant students not only show lower achievement levels academically, but also report much higher dropout scores. The data also shows that dropouts are much more common in urban and heavily populated areas opposed to suburban and rural areas.
For my research, I focused on the difference that immigrant students and their families have in the American school system. One interesting thing that I found from my research was the impact that deportation had on immigrant students. Overall, my research focused on the effect immigrant families have on schooling and communities and how these immigrants should be protected in order to give them a better education.
We're now going to be talking about the interviews that we conducted throughout this project. We interviewed a student directly affected by immigration, along with an advisor for international students. Lena, a sophomore here at Purdue, lived in Japan when she was younger before she moved to Dubai. In Dubai, she attended an American school with the purpose of her eventually going to an American university. We really wanted to look at the distinct differences between the two education systems. One of the main differences that she discussed was how closed-minded Americans seem to be due to the lack of non-American culture. In comparison to Dubai, there is not one dominant native culture and instead many different cultures. Through this interview, we learned about the struggles, including leaving your family behind to gain an education, adapting to a different lifestyle, and growing up in general.
Our second interview was with Leighton Bunton, an intercultural program specialist in the International Programs Dean's office. Leighton was born in Canada and has lived in a variety of different locations throughout his life. This background of being an international student for pretty much his whole life has led him to a job at Purdue, working with the international students. In our interview, we asked questions regarding the transition from one country to another for the international students at Purdue. We found that the most impactful program for these students that department runs is the Boiler Gold Rush International. This is a huge program that happens before the academic school year starts that allows international students to gain a basic understanding of the American classroom and helps them get used to the American culture in general.
For our written submission for our math project, we decided to make a brochure. We believe that by creating a brochure, we will be able to give our audience some key points about immigrant students that they can take home with them and review. We hope that this will help our content stick with our audience even if our entire presentation for our MAP Action 2 plan does not. The brochure included information for each member's research, facts about immigration students, and information about different cultures to become more well-rounded.
We hope to communicate with the Purdue Student Education Club about our research about immigrant students and provide resources that they can use in their future classrooms. We chose a Purdue Education Club because this is our target audience that could have a huge impact on their classrooms in the future and helping future immigrants in their classroom have a smoother transition into the American classroom. We will maximize the impact of our presentation by handing out the brochure our group made and that the club can take with them as reference, and possibly have an ELL teacher help our presentation by giving her own personal experience with immigrant students.
In the future, we plan to present our brochure regarding immigrant students in the American school system to the Students in Education Enhancing Diversity Club. We also plan to present this topic to the class later in this semester in order to educate our classmates on what we have learned. After the presentation to our class, we plan to facilitate a class discussion where feedback and ideas can generate. Based on what we have learned, we hope to bring awareness to this matter outside of presentations as well.
I learned that many aspects of education are difficult for immigrant students, but the social aspect and the environment of the classroom are two of the major factors that influence how well an immigrant student actually transitions. I also learned that each case is completely unique and deserves to be treated as such rather than being grouped into one category.